Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of GIS Answers. Please subscribe and like the video. Today we'll be talking about the shapefile format. This consists of at least 3 Windows files representing a layer that can be loaded into ArcView, ArcMap, or ArcGIS Pro, QGIS, or pretty much any GIS software. This file type is backwards and forwards compatible with different versions of the software. Basically, the shapefile has stayed the same throughout the years. This has made it very useful and flexible. Almost all GIS platforms will read shapefiles. A shapefile is not a map. It's just a layer of GIS data. One or more or multiple shapefiles will help build a map. Files to make up a shapefile layer are the SHP, that contains the vector information, points, lines, or polygons, basically the geometry. SHX is an index file that contains header information or the extents of the data. The DBF file contains the database component, meaning the attribute information. The PRJ file is a projection file. This contains the coordinate system for geospatial reference. An XML file sometimes is created. This can contain metadata information. There are also other index and spatial files that can be created by the software once it's being loaded in, once the shapefile has been loaded in. So let's have a look at these files. These are the road center lines for the city of Ottawa. As you can see, we have a DBF file, contains the database attribute information, the PRJ that contains the projection or coordinate system. We have an SBN and an SBX file. These are spatial index files. These are not required. SHP, this contains the geometry or the line work, points, lines, and polygons, and the SHX, that is the header file, and that is an index file. So mandatory SHX, SHP, and DBF. And nowadays, you almost always see the PRJ, those 4 files. So let's look at this. When we go to ArcMap, ArcGIS Pro, we're going to add in the Ottawa file, road center lines. You'll notice that the .shp is shown as the shapefile. That's the main file, but obviously you need all 4 of those files. Okay, so the line work would be contained in the SHP. The attribute information is contained in the DBF file, which you're seeing there, with all the field names and attribute information. SHX contains the header file or the index, which will contain the limits, the spatial limits of the data, and the projection file, which would be shown here. WGS 84. So that is a shapefile. And quite often, when you receive a shapefile, it will be in a zip format. As you can see, this was downloaded as a road centerline zip file, and you just open that. Okay, unzip it. And that's basically what I've got to show today about shapefiles. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you again. Thanks. So how do I export to a shapefile in ArcGIS Pro? So we've got a couple of layers here. We've got a shapefile, which is the administrative regions for Iceland. And then we've got some world topographic map and some hillshade and a hillshade map too. So what you have to do is, let's say we want to select the western region of Iceland. So we've got one polygon highlighted, and we want to create that as its own separate polygon. So right-click on the source layer, Data, Export, Features. Then by default we've got Output Location, and that's a geodatabase, but we want to make that a shapefile. So in this case, we want to point to the folder location where we want to save the shapefile. And just name the shapefile West. And the most important thing is SHP on the end, representing the shapefile, and we'll run that. It's finished. And as you can see, there's the shapefile for the western region by itself. And that's how you export to a shapefile in ArcGIS Pro.
Hello and welcome to another episode of GIS Answers. Today what we'll be looking at is further details on how to export to a shapefile, some further options and flexibility. So please subscribe to the channel if you are not a member, and welcome to the channel. So we'll get right into this. What I have is landmarks for the city of Miami, downloaded from the City of Miami Open Data website. And they're landmark points, and they represent parks, schools, businesses, restaurants, museums, libraries, and other points of interest. We also have the world imagery and the hybrid reference layer in the table of contents. So we're going to look at this data in more detail, and we're going to open in the attribute table, and we have the landmark name, we have the address, we have fire ID zone, a police ID zone, we have the city ID, which would be Miami, and there's some other attribute fields I'm not really sure about, but then there's one, the landmark classification name. So this is where we have things like schools, parks, restaurants, and such classifications. And what I want to do is I want to select all the parks within this layer. And what we're going to do after selecting them, we're going to export them to its own park layer. So we'll click on that field and select by attributes. We want it to be a new selection. We want to select the land class name, and we want to select all the parks. So anything with the classification park. So we're going to click OK. We have 104 parks selected out of the 765 landmarks, points of interest. So what we want to do, we want to create our own layer just called parks. We want to create our own shapefile. So we're going to right click on the landmark layer, data, export features. We want to find a folder to export to. That's going to be the Miami landmarks folder that I've created before, and we're going to call it parks. Now, there are more options where we can remove some fields that we don't need, perhaps. Maybe we don't need the city because we know it's the city of Miami. Fire, police, and tow ID, I'm not really sure what that could be, and I'm not sure about security. Don't really need those attribute fields. So before I export, I want to go to an environment. Perhaps landmarks, I think it's it's a WGS 84. But let's say somebody else you're working with, or a system that you're working with, needs the file exported in a different coordinate system. Perhaps there's a state coordinate system that's more appropriate, and there's a system already built that requires that. So maybe there's a Florida NAD83 Albers system that we're going to select there, and that's going to be the one that we're going to export into. So it'll spell park right. And again, check out the fields that we're exporting, that we're including, and we'll click OK. It quickly does it. And we're going to close the attribute table for landmarks, and we're going to open the attribute table for parks. And we'll have 104 records, and we'll have 104 points. So that data has been exported, just the parks, they've been isolated. You've created your own unique layer. And let's check the properties to make sure that the spatial reference is the NAD83 Florida Albers in meters, that projection. So, so everything worked out well in this case. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you again. Thanks for watching.
So quite often when I started using ArcMap, I was stumped over, how do I create a new layer? How do I create a new shapefile? So in version 3.1 of ArcView and 3.2 and 3.3, it was quite easily added under a theme. You could go theme, new shapefile, but not so easy in ArcMap. This used to stump us for a few weeks until we got the hang of it. So the way to create a new layer is to go into Art Catalog or Catalog. So I'm just going to go into Catalog, and if you don't already have a connect to folder, you can connect to your folder and connect to a location on your hard drive or in the cloud, or a connection to perhaps an SDE server location. So anyway, once you've located that folder that you want to create the new layer in, you can right-click and new. Just hold that mouse over the new, and you've got some options there. You can do a file geodatabase, personal geodatabase. You can connect to ArcGIS server. You've got database connections to SDE, but most commonly a new shapefile. So you can click on that, and from there you can create your new shapefile.